Okay, how's that then? Okay, how's that then? Okay, how's that then? Okay, how's that then? And now that's on a loop, so let's just bring. Okay, how's that then? And now that's on a loop, so let's just bring. Okay, how's that then? And now that's on a loop, so let's just bring. Okay, how's that then? And now that's on a loop, so let's just bring. Okay, okay. Okay. Alright, we'll work this out. Hopefully you can hear me, and then we'll get the game audio up. Right, hopefully we won't loop this time. Right, hopefully we won't loop this time. Yeah, all the audio settings I had seem to have been reset with the update on OBS. Yeah, all the audio settings I had seem to have been reset with the update on OBS. Yeah, all the audio settings I had. Yeah, it's still looping. Marvelous. Yeah, it's still looping. Marvelous. Okay, let's see if we have a loop here, but I think I've lost the game audio now. Problems. Right. Okay, I figured out why it was looping. Coming through on the other audio channels from Windows. So you should hopefully be able to hear the game audio, and you should hopefully be able to also hear me without any loops. Am I loud and clear though? Because we have been quiet in the past. Marvellous. That's good to know, because last time we had to up the microphone volume by quite a bit. Right, let's actually do some DCS stuff. So yeah, how are you, buddy? What have you been up to? You still flying DCS yourself? You're getting on well with the F18? I can fly the F18 now, but that's all I can do with it, is fly it. I'd even get off the ground's a bit dodgy, but yeah, I've been learning to fly the F5 Tiger in the training school, and we're going to be using the F18 as the other training aircraft. So I'm going to go through some of the training missions on the F18 today. Try and get to bed on time though. Ah, yeah, the Harrier. Yeah, that is a very nice module. It's sort of the best all-rounder, I think, in DCS world. It's semi-modern. It's got all the weapons the F18 and the A10 can carry. It's faster than the A10. It's more suitable for low-level ground attack than the F18, and it's got vertical takeoff and landing, or at very least STOL, or yeah, SVTOL. Oh yeah, the 8350. That's actually 8350 is actually not too far ahead of the £100 computer I bought to help me stream. I think it's a 680 something. This processor is in that. So what have you got then, processor wise? Just having a coughing fit there. Oh yeah. And a 3060 is a decent card. That's the thing, DCS isn't really graphics limited, it's CPU limited at the moment, and they really get that multi-threading up and running. Right, shall we try and 1060? Clinging on to frames per daily life, yeah. Well, I mean, yeah, you know I'm using that high-end cloud system, so that's technically not an issue, although it sort of is because I'm running at 4K with pretty much everything maxed out. But I'm still managing to get 60 frames a second, so whoop-de-doo. Right, so let's start off. We are going to start at the basics and we're just going to work through these basically. I do know most of the cold start stuff on the F18. I've flown it a few times. Other than that, I don't know much. I have flown it enough, can you believe it or not, that I can actually refuel. In-flight refueling. Not all at once, it's somewhat disconnect and reconnect, but we get there. But yeah, I'm going to go through the, we'll start at the cold start, probably miss the taxi and take off. We'll do some navigation stuff because I want to learn how to input waypoints, so on and so forth. And just work our way through for a couple of hours. So that's 7:15. We'll probably run till just after 8 o'clock. We'll have a little break after an hour and then we'll come back and probably run it through till 10 o'clock tonight. However long that takes us or how far we get through the missions. But yeah, the F5 Tiger and the F18 are the two planes that we use in the training school I'm part of now. Which you do have to pay for. There's a paid subscription to it, but you are getting full-on proper training and proper RAF tactics. So you're getting taught how to do proper circuits on landings and takeoff, proper procedure takeoff, and then as you get later on, you get formation flying. We're at the formation flying point now, actually, in the training so far, and I'm thinking of making videos of the proper procedures and just me following me through the program, not to give anything away from the actual flight school's own syllabus, but most of it's available online anyway, but more my story than anything else. A little bit of stutter. Track IR looks good. Let's do it.
Welcome to this training lesson on starting up the Hornet. In some missions, you will find yourself in a cold and dark Hornet that you will need to bring to life. While this can be a rather long process as described in the manual, you can also enable the auto start function. However, for this lesson, we'll review the full startup procedure. Press spacebar when you are ready to get started.
And try not to sneeze and cough down the microphone. Right. Definitely do have a bit of a cold at the moment. Come on, come on. Well, I've pressed spacebar. I'm waiting. And apart from a track IR, nothing else seems to work. That's working. It's supposed to be the training mission. It's telling me how to do
The first
this.
thing we need to do is enable the two batteries. This will allow operation of the canopy and power the engine igniters. You'll also notice that the integrated fuel and engine indicator, or IFE, in the lower left portion of the instrument panel will have power. Move the battery switch to the up or on position with a right mouse button click.
Done that.
The Hornet has two fire detection circuits, A and B, that test for fire in the engines, auxiliary power unit, and bleed air system. Before we go into detail on that though, check that the hydraulic brake pressure gauge for the wheel brakes shows at least 3000 psi. Confirm this by looking at the gauge, which is located to the left and up from the highlighted fire test switch. Okay, now put the spring-loaded fire test switch in the up Test A position and keep holding it up to test the A circuits. To do this, place the mouse over the fire test switch and hold down the right mouse button. Keep holding the mouse button down and do not release it until it runs through all the fire test audio warnings. In addition to the audio warnings, also note the fire test warning lights on the upper left and right portions of the instrument panel. When it's done, press spacebar.
This is very loud. Supposed to come with test B. Why is the test B not running? Which is basically the same warnings. Alright, we'll just hit space because that's a boring.
We will now do the same thing for the B circuit.
Oh, that's why.
After waiting 10 seconds, place the mouse over the fire test switch and hold down the left mouse button to move the switch in the down test B position.
This slow?
Keep holding it down and then release it once all the fire warning audio messages have been played. Well done. Press spacebar.
I've not done it yet because I had two of you barking in my ear a minute ago. Right, here we go.
Engine fire left. Engine fire left. Engine fire right. Engine fire right. APU fire. APU fire. Bleed air left. Bleed air left. Bleed air right. Bleed air right.
Right, thank God that's over with. Right. Let's go.
Good job. Note that in the top left portion of the IFE, you can see the RPM and temp of both the left and right engines. These will be important for when we start the engines. We will now turn on the auxiliary power unit, or APU. This is a small, self-contained engine that augments the bleed air system and will start turning the engines for engine starts. Place the APU control switch in the up or on position with the left mouse button click.
Well, if it's going up, I always used to do a right click.
Once the green light next to the APU switch comes on, move the engine crank switch to its right position, marked by the R with a right mouse button click. This will allow the APU to power the Air Turbine Starter, or ATS, which in turn allows the aircraft mounted accessory drive, or AMAD, to start turning the fan blades within the right engine.
Green lights.
Once the right engine RPM has reached 20%, as indicated on the IFE, move the right throttle from off to idle by pressing right shift home. This in turn will introduce fuel into the engine combustion chamber and start the igniters. Once the right engine RPM has reached 60%, the right engine start cycle is complete and the right generator is automatically engaged. Once at 60%, press spacebar.
Try that engine crank again. Good. And that's already in. Come on, baby, come to life. There we go.
Well left, Roll left.
When we conducted the tests of the A and B fire
Right
test
control.
circuits, we
Right
also
control.
closed the bleed air shutoff valves. We need to reopen these by rotating the bleed air knob clockwise 360 degrees, from norm to norm. Do this by right mouse button clicking on the outer portion of the knob. When done, press spacebar. With the right engine running and generator power on, place the left and right digital display indicators, or DDIs, to the day position using right mouse button clicks on both brightness selector knobs. Next, rotate the HUD symbology brightness control knob clockwise by placing your mouse over it and rotating your mouse wheel forward. Once you see video displayed on the left and right DDIs and HUD, press spacebar. In the lower center of the instrument panel is the multi-purpose color display, or MPCD. Rotate the power and brightness control knob to the full bright setting by placing your mouse over the knob and rotating your mouse wheel forward. It will take a few moments to power on. Press spacebar once you see video displayed on the MPCD.
Good.
On the left DDI, press the menu push button to bring up the support page. The support page has several sub-pages like the checklist, engine, fuel, ADI, and HSI. For now, though, press the FCS push button to select the flight control system page.
Go.
The FCS page shows the status of the control surfaces and any detected FCS errors. The X's indicate detected errors, but we will address those once the left engine is started. You should not see any 2, R, or FADEC caution messages along the bottom of the left DDI. Note that by default, you will not have the built-in test or bit page on the right DDI. We'll come back to this. During this lesson and future lessons, you will often see and hear the master caution. This is the large yellow labeled button on the instrument panel that will light when any caution condition is triggered. There will also be an accompanying deedle sound to draw your attention. Press this button or click on it to acknowledge the caution and extinguish the light. Press the master caution again to restack the caution and advisory notices along the bottom of the left DDI. Cautions will be along the top and advisories in smaller text along the bottom. If the left DDI is not on, then the caution and advisories will be displayed on another display. By default, though, they will be on the left DDI.
Okay, what's next?
The Hornet comes equipped with an inertial navigation system, or INS. Use right mouse clicks to set the INS switch, located on the sensor panel, to the ground position. This will start an INS ground alignment. Now it is time to crank the left engine. Go ahead and move the engine crank switch to its left position, labeled L. By left mouse click. Once the left engine is at 20% RPM, as indicated on the iFeed, move the left throttle from off to idle by pressing right Alt Home. This will add fuel to the engine and start the igniters. When the left engine is at 60% RPM, press spacebar to continue. On the FCS page, we have quite a few X's indicating abnormal FCS readings. To clear these, press and hold the FCS reset button. Located in the back of the left console is the panel for the onboard oxygen generation system, or OBOGS. Go ahead and set the OBOGS switch to its up on position. To the left of the INS switch is the radar switch. Set this switch to the operate position using your right mouse button. Don't worry, the radar will be in silent mode. You won't microwave the ground crew. Our next step will be to run a bit on the Flight Control System, or FCS. Before doing so, set the flaps to the up auto position with the F key, or 2 right mouse button clicks on the flap switch.
How did you right mouse button clicks on the flight switch?
We'll now run a bit of the flight control system. This moves the control surfaces to their limits to test for any software or mechanical errors. First, select the FCS bit page from the bit page on the right DDI. To run the FCS bit, we'll need to activate 2 controls at the same time. While holding up on the FCS bit switch on the right wall, press the FCS push button on the right DDI. Upon doing so, you'll see the controls being cycled on both the FCS DDI page, and if you look outside the cockpit, you can watch the wing and tail control surfaces moving. Once the FCS bit is complete, marked by the beep tone, place the flap switch in the center or half position with the left mouse button click on the switch. Takeoff is done with flaps set to half. Once we are airborne, we'll move them to auto. For takeoff, we will want our stabs trimmed for 12 degrees. To set this, press and hold down the takeoff trim button. Upon doing so, you will also notice that the stab values on the FCS page will change to 12. The leading edge flaps, trailing edge flaps, and rudder should all have values of 30 degrees. You should also have no X's on the FCS page. Uncage the backup ADI by placing your mouse over the SAI cage knob and rotating the mouse wheel aft until the red flag is stowed. Close the canopy by holding the canopy control switch in the down, close position until the canopy is closed. Do this by pressing the key combination or placing the mouse over the switch and holding down the left mouse button. Once the canopy is closed, press spacebar to continue.
That's a bit quieter.
At this point, the INS has been aligned as indicated on the MPCD HSI page. Move the INS switch from ground to nav with one right mouse button click on the switch.
How has it told me that it's ready though? You're not telling me how it's telling me that it's ready.
Prior to taxi, press the menu push button on the left DDI to go to the TAC or Tactical page. On the TAC page, you have access to sub-pages like the Stores Management System, Attack Radar, HUD, and Electronic Warfare pages. On the left DDI TAC page, select the HUD push button to display a mirror of the HUD on the DDI. This can be useful when head down or in case of HUD failure. Let's now set up the right DDI. Press the menu push button on the right DDI to bring up the tactical page. Press the menu push button again to bring up the support page. Now on the support page, press the FCS push button. We will want the HUD on the left DDI and the FCS page on the right DDI when we taxi and take off. The parking brake system is operated with the yellow and black parking brake handle. The handle is currently in the park position, indicated by the fact that the park label is visible to the pilot. Release the parking brake now by rotating the handle 45 degrees counterclockwise from the extended position. This can be achieved by left mouse button clicking the handle or pressing the right Alt-P key. This will release the lock and allow the handle to return to the horizontal stowed position, where the emerge label is visible to the pilot. This concludes the current lesson on starting up the Hornet. As mentioned earlier though, there is also an option for automatically starting up the Hornet by pressing the left Windows Home key. You can end the lesson now by pressing the Escape key.
We'll end the lesson now and then restart, see if we can do it ourselves. Pretty much know what we're doing anyway. But yeah, I got the new my new X56 is far superior to the X52, and it works with no dodgy buttons, although the first X56 I got did have a dodgy button on it. I had to replace it after, which is not good. So if we go, no, just quit. Excuse me. And then we just go to a mission. F18. Yeah, it's most of the formation work I've been doing, Zanra, has been with the new stick. When I was trying to learn Spitfire on F86 originally, the throttle on the X52 wasn't going to zero. I found out it wasn't zeroing out, so I think that was part of the problem with my Spitfire landings, is the throttle was coming down to about between 5 and 10%. It wasn't going to zero, it wasn't idling, I should say, which certainly caused a problem. But also it developed an issue where the throttle was jumping backwards and forwards, like continuously going up to about 100% and then back down again, up and down and up and down. It would only do it when the throttle was sort of like in the middle, between 50 and 70%, but so obviously I can't work with that. You can't fly a plane that's jumping from 100 to 0% all the time. So I took it back and traded it in for an X56, and the first X56 I got had one dodgy button. It was one of the buttons on the throttle that you would normally use for comms, really. So that lasted about a week and a half before actually finally the button just didn't work. So I took that back, got another one, and this one seems to be absolutely fine. And the response and the fact I've got dual controls for both left and right engine, I'm very happy with. And I say since that, most of my training I've done, virtually all of the training I've done in school has been on the X56. And I've been sort of doing concentrated every day, doing about 2 hours of refueling practice. So, which started off, as you probably remember, couldn't fly well. So that started off about 6 weeks ago, with me basically being all over the shop and just trying to fly next. I think I've actually got some. If you go to my YouTube channel, you'll actually see some footage of that. I think it's under formation practice. and you'll just see I can't even sit steady next to the tanker in that, so there's no chance of refueling. But now I can actually get the probe in the basket. It does disconnect a couple of times now and again though. It's still not perfect by any means, still a long way from being perfect. But after 2 or 3 disconnects and reconnects, I can actually fill up the F18, and I can actually connect with the F14. I've not been able to fill it up yet because I keep just disconnecting too much. But I actually prefer flying the F14 over the F18 because the F14 flies, it feels more fluid, it feels more natural. The F18, when I'm flying it, feels like I mean, it is computerized, it's all flight control systems, but it just feels like it's on rails. It just doesn't feel like I'm flying or the plane's flying. It just feels too computer controlled for me. But I've got to learn the F18. It's the most popular module in here, and it is the module that my training school use, so I've got to learn it, and that's fair enough. It is one of the most versatile aircraft in DCS, but it's not the one I'll be concentrating on. I want to do F14. I want to get good back in the F86, and a Mirage or something with Mirage 2000 I really like, and the Harrier would be nice. The Harrier would be nice because it's just a lovely multi-role aircraft. It's better than the A10 because it's faster. It can hold just as much as the A10 when it comes to weapons loadout, but it's actually better for low down work than F18 or F16. I think because it was designed to be, you know, low attack, strike, close air support. So. Really, I just ignore it most of the time. Discord settings. I suppose I could just shut it down because I don't actually need to be online with the Discord at the moment. Let's just video. Yeah, it's pinging away a bit, I suppose. Enable. that should do it. Disable all notification sounds. If that doesn't fix it, I don't know what will. Right, so yeah, there's the training missions I've been doing that some of the guys from the squad that I joined have sent me. These two are actually two formation practice flight ones. So one of them's the F5 and the practice 2 is the F18, and basically you're just flying along beside an F5 and an F18 are just flying in a straight line. That one there is a very good formation trainer for, I would say, slightly more advanced. Once you've got the hang of flying in a straight line very close next to a aircraft, that's probably the next mission. It's really good. That's from a gentleman there named Doppler. You can get that on DCS World Forums, DCS World website. And you basically fly along next to an F-16, and you can fly most of the big modules in that, but you're flying along next to an F-16 and you've got to stay within. There's two zones. There's the perfect zone, which I think is 150 feet, and there's the OK zone, which is about 500 feet of the F-16, and then at the end of the flight, which is about a 15-minute flight, you get a score of how well you did. It's really quite good. I've tried it a few times and completely failed. And that one there, refuel Persian Gulf, that's a refueling mission with several of the modules, and that's another refueling mission. I think it's got an extra couple of more modules. It's got the Harrier in it. That one doesn't. I don't think that one does. But yeah, those two have been hitting quite hard, especially this one, the refuel. I've been hitting that with the F18 and the F14. So I managed to refuel last Sunday with the F14, and the week before that I managed to refuel in the F18 and got it so that I can get a connection pretty much and get it filled up, but not all in one hit. But the F14, I got a few connections, but only for a few seconds. For some reason, as soon as you get the connection, the F14 seems to accelerate, and then it just disconnects because you're getting too close to the tanker. But even when I've tried to compensate for that, yeah, it's a slower throttle. But I mean, I've got used. The throttle control is actually something I've got used to. That's the easiest bit out of the two main things that you need to do in refueling. One is obviously throttle control, and the other one is fly straight and level, or very close to straight and level. And I've found that I've got my throttle control very, very, very precise. Yeah, trim, get the trim spot on, and that's half the battle. I've definitely found that out. If you've got your trim set where you're trying to refuel and it's spot on, it's half the battle is won basically. But yeah, the throttle control, I'm really happy with my throttle control now. I can move my throttle what feels like microns, just walking the throttles, but so tiny amounts, just left and right, moving it very slowly forward. But even when I connect with the F14, the F18 seem to do it as well, but not as much. When you connect with the hose on the F18, it would obviously keep going forward because you're going forward into the hose, but you'd immediately sort of compensate for that, and it would quickly, and even though the F14 has got a delay in the throttle response, compensating for it didn't seem to work. It's like you connected, and yes, you're creeping forward an extra knot quicker than the tanker, but as soon as it made a connection, it seemed to jump from 1 knot to 4 knots, and you're very quickly going up under that wing, and you're like, whoa, where did that extra speed come from? Just got really frustrating. So I'm just looking for a cold start, basically, so they can practice the cold start on the F18, and then we'll move on to navigation. There we go, cold start in the Caucasus. But yeah, I'm not a big fan of the F18, to be honest. All the younger guys all love it because it was in my Top Gun Maverick, but the F14's the F14's a better plane than the F18 anyway. Everybody knew that. Just unfortunately, a US senator was getting a bribe from Boeing to take the F18 on instead of the F14 from Government. That's the thing. I mean, they actually Grumman designed an F18 Super Bomber design it. The Navy wanted it, but the Senators made the right decision. They literally wouldn't even speak to Grumman. They absolutely refused to hear Grumman. Pentagon at the time was fairly overweight. Whereas
Engine fire left. Engine fire left. Engine fire right. Engine fire right. APU fire. APU fire. Bleed air left. Bleed air left. Bleed air right. Bleed air right. Engine fire left. Engine fire left. Engine fire right. Engine fire right. APU fire. APU fire. Bleed air left. Bleed air left. Bleed air right. Bleed air right. Flight control. Flight control.
Passing waypoint 2 at 5,000.
That was blasting in my ears. Reset. It's cleared all of those. It's actually too early for that menu. looks like we go back and learn that again then. It's not there, it's not in the electronic listening. SA, it's not in the attack radar, it won't be in the stores page. It won't be in the HUD. It's just HSA, which is already on the map.
Colt 1, passing waypoint 3 at 7,000.
All looks good there. Nav. Sod it. Just miss out the bits test and we're all good.
Chief, remove the wheel chocks.
Copy. Wheel chocks are now removed.
Go. Still got the wings out. Let's go to number 1. Just do a launch for fun. Oh yeah, I'll need to learn how to do that bits test again. Watch your head, guy. Hello.
Rolling.
Good for 2. I'm going to take off and then I'm going to go back into the training exercise and learn about the bits bit again. Down we go. I'm not convinced I'm lined up properly. Alright, you want your launch bar, don't you? way too forward.
Rolling.
I am way off the cat now. See you later too. You still signal when you go forward and I'm already gone way past the cat.
Wheels up.
What are you doing, you madman? Decided I'm going to see if I can take off from here. This will be fun. I'll be a no then. I'm gonna get run over by the cat here. Right. So I didn't remember how to do the bits test bit. So we'll rerun that again. Boring as it may have been. Gotta do it, you gotta do it right. And training. It's cold start. Oh, I've got to listen to him or listen to her bark through about the APU fire. APU fire again. Right. Nope. Oh shit. Audio. I'm just going to bring the general audio down because it's
Welcome to
very
this
loud
training
for me.
lesson on starting up the Hornet. In some missions, you will find yourself in a cold and dark Hornet that you will need to bring to life. While this can be a rather long process as described in the manual, you can also enable the auto start function. However, for this lesson, we'll review the full startup procedure. The first thing we need to do is enable the 2 batteries. This will allow operation of the canopy and power the engine igniters. You'll also notice that the integrated fuel and engine indicator, or IFE, in the lower left portion of the instrument panel will have power. Move the battery switch to the up or on position with a right mouse button click.
Click.
The Hornet has 2 fire detection circuits, A and B, that test for fire in the engine's auxiliary power unit and bleed air system. Before we go into detail on that though, check that the hydraulic brake pressure gauge for the wheel brakes shows at least 3000 psi. Confirm this by looking at the gauge, which is located to the left and up from the highlighted fire test switch. Okay, now put the spring-loaded fire test switch in the up test A position and keep holding it up to test the A circuits. To do this, place the mouse over the fire test switch and hold down the right mouse button. Keep holding the mouse button down and do not release it until it runs through all the fire test audio warnings. In addition to the audio warnings, also note the fire test warning lights on the upper left and right portions of the instrument panel. When it's done, press spacebar.
Engine fire left. Engine fire left. Engine fire right. Engine fire right. APU fire. APU fire. Bleed air left. Bleed air left. Bleed air right. Bleed air right.
Not called bitch and Betty for nothing.
We will now do the same thing for the B circuit. After waiting 10 seconds, place the mouse over the fire test switch and hold down the left mouse button to move the switch in the down test B position. Keep holding it down and then release it once all the fire warning audio messages have been played. Well done. Press spacebar.
Engine fire left. Engine fire left. Engine fire right. Engine fire right. APU fire. APU fire. Bleed air left. Bleed air left. Bleed air right. Bleed air right.
Happy days.
Good job.
Good job.
Note that in the top left portion of the IFE, you can see the RPM and temp of both the left and right engines. These will be important for when we start the engines. We will now turn on the auxiliary power unit, or APU. This is a small, self-contained engine that augments the bleed air system and will start turning the engines for engine starts. Place the APU control switch in the up or on position with the left mouse button click. Once the green light next to the APU switch comes on, move the engine crank switch to its right position, marked by the R, with a right mouse button click. This will allow the APU to power the Air Turbine Starter, or ATS, which in turn allows the aircraft-mounted accessory drive, or AMAD, to start turning the fan blades within the right engine. Once the right engine RPM has reached 20%, as indicated on the IFE, move the right throttle from off to idle by pressing right shift home. This in turn will introduce fuel into the engine combustion chamber and start the igniters. Once the right engine RPM has reached 60%, the right engine start cycle is complete and the right generator is automatically engaged. Once at 60%, press spacebar. When we conducted the tests of the A and B fire test circuits, we also closed the bleed air shutoff valves. We need to reopen these by rotating the bleed air knob clockwise 360 degrees, from norm to norm. Do this by right mouse button clicking on the outer portion of the knob. When done, press spacebar. With the right engine running and generator power on, place the left and right digital display indicators, or DDIs, to the day position using right mouse button clicks on both brightness selector knobs. Next, rotate the HUD symbology brightness control knob clockwise by placing your mouse over it and rotating your mouse wheel forward. Once you see video displayed on the left and right DDIs on HUD, press spacebar. In the lower center of the instrument panel is the multi-purpose color display, or MPCD. Rotate the power and brightness control knob to the full bright setting by placing your mouse over the knob and rotating your mouse wheel forward. It will take a few moments to power on. Press spacebar once you see video displayed on the MPCD. On the left DDI, press the menu push button to bring up the support page. The support page has several sub-pages like the checklist, engine, fuel, ADI, and HSI. For now, though, press the FCS push button to select the flight control system page. The FCS page shows the status of the control surfaces and any detected FCS errors. The X's indicate detected errors, but we will address those once the left engine is started. You should not see any 2, R, or FADEC caution messages along the bottom of the left DDI. Note that by default, you will not have the built-in test or bit page on the right DDI. We'll come back to this. During this lesson and future lessons, you will often see and hear the master caution. This is the large yellow labeled button on the instrument panel that will light when any caution condition is triggered. There will also be an accompanying deedle sound to draw your attention. Press this button or click on it to acknowledge the caution and extinguish the light. Press the master caution again to restack the caution and advisory notices along the bottom of the left DDI. Cautions will be along the top and advisories in smaller text along the bottom. If the left DDI is not on, then the caution and advisories will be displayed on another display. By default, though, they will be on the left DDI. The Hornet comes equipped with an inertial navigation system, or INS. Use right mouse clicks to set the INS switch. located on the sensor panel to the ground position. This will start an INS ground alignment. Now it is time to crank the left engine. Go ahead and move the engine crank switch to its left position, labeled L, by left mouse clicking it. Once the left engine is at 20% RPM, as indicated on the iFeed, move the left throttle from off to idle by pressing right Alt Home. This will add fuel to the engine and start the igniters. When the left engine is at 60% RPM, press spacebar to continue. On the FCS page, we have quite a few X's indicating abnormal FCS readings. To clear these, press and hold the FCS reset button. Located in the back of the left console is the panel for the onboard oxygen generation system, or OBOGs. Go ahead and set the OBOG switch to its up-on position. To the left of the INS switch is the radar switch. Set this switch to the operate position using your right mouse button. Don't worry, the radar will be in silent mode. You won't microwave the ground crew. Our next step will be to run a bit on the flight control system, or FCS. Before doing so, set the flaps to the up auto position with the F key, or 2 right mouse button clicks on the flap switch. We'll now run a bit of the flight control system. This moves the control surfaces to their limits to test for any software or mechanical errors. First, select the FCS bit page from the bit page on the right DDI. To run the FCS bit, we'll need to activate 2 controls at the same time. While holding up on the FCS bit switch on the right wall, press the FCS push button on the right DDI. Upon doing so, you'll see the controls being cycled on both the FCS DDI page, and if you look outside the cockpit, you can watch the wing and tail control surfaces moving. Once the FCS bit is complete, marked by the beep tone, place the flap switch in the center or half position with a left mouse button click on the switch. Takeoff is done with flaps set to half. Once we are airborne, we'll move them to auto. For takeoff, we will want our stabs trimmed for 12 degrees. To set this, press and hold down the takeoff trim button. Upon doing so, you will also notice that the stab values on the FCS page will change to 12. The leading edge flaps, trailing edge flaps, and rudder should all have values of 30 degrees. You should also have no X's on the FCS page.
All good.
Uncage the backup ADI by placing your mouse over the SAI cage knob and rotating the mouse wheel aft until the red flag is stowed. Close the canopy by holding the canopy control switch in the down, close position until the canopy is closed. Do this by pressing the key combination or placing the mouse over the switch and holding down the left mouse button. Once the canopy is closed, press spacebar to continue. At this point, the INS has been aligned as indicated on the MPCD HSI page. Move the INS switch from ground to nav with 1 right mouse button click on the switch. Prior to taxi, press the menu push button on the left DDI to go to the TAC or tactical page. On the TAC page, you have access to subpages like the store's management system, attack radar, HUD, and electronic warfare pages.
It says INS degraded. Why is my INS degraded?
On the left DDI TAC page, select the HUD push button to display a mirror of the HUD on the DDI. This can be useful when head down or in case of HUD failure. Let's now set up the right DDI. press the menu push button on the right DDI to bring up the tactical page. Press the menu push button again to bring up the support page. Now on the support page, press the FCS push button. We will want the HUD on the left DDI and the FCS page on the right DDI when we taxi and take off. The parking brake system is operated with the yellow and black parking brake handle. The handle is currently in the park position, indicated by the fact that the park label is visible to the pilot. Release the parking brake now by rotating the handle 45 degrees counterclockwise from the extended position. This can be achieved by left mouse button clicking the handle or pressing the right Alt-P key. This will release the lock and allow the handle to return to the horizontal stowed position, where the Emerge label is visible to the pilot.
Oh, he's finished talking.
This concludes the current lesson on starting up the Hornet. As mentioned earlier though, there is also an option for automatically starting up the Hornet by pressing the left Windows Home key.
Alright. Let's quit out of that. Close that. Close that. Go to mission. Super carrier cold start. Okay. Let's do it right this time. Fly.
Engine fire left. Engine fire left. Engine fire right. Engine fire right. APU fire. APU fire. Lead air left. Lead air left. Lead air right. Lead air right. Engine fire left. Engine fire left. Engine fire right. Engine fire right. APU fire. APU fire. Lead air left. Lead air left. Lead air right. Lead air right.
so much quieter. Go down. Yeah, training's been okay. Done this mission, which is a cold start mission on the supercarrier, and forgot a couple of things. So I went back through the cold start training again, so your phone call probably saved you for most of that. And we're just going to try and launch off the carrier now, because it should be up and running now. Wheel chocks, I'll assume they're in.
Chief, remove the wheel chocks. Copy. Wheel chocks are now removed.
Colts 1, passing waypoint 2 at 5,000.
See, that doesn't seem to do anything for me requesting takeoff. Right, let's roll. Just roll to Cat 1. This could just turn on a dime. Let's see. Just wiped out that guy's head. Pitted tube there.
Rolling.
Yeah, wait for me to line up, and then I'll put my wings out. Holding. And extend the launch bar. Cool. Right, let's stuff this up like we did the last time. Slowly forwards. go. Launch bar. How did he get away before me? My crew are bad. Retracting the line.
Wheels up. Colts 1, passing waypoint 3 at 7,000.
Controls wipe out. Forwards, back, left, right. Powering up. Left shift, left control, S, salute. Would you believe it? I would. Lovely. And I thought the F18 was all supposed to do most of that for you. Never mind. And I had the flaps in auto. Sure I had the flaps in auto. Should have gone off the deck and straight into the air. But that's that training over. I'm happy I know how to start the F18 from cold and get everything done. Obviously, strangely enough, in my opinion, it didn't actually cover on the cold start training, like getting the electronic warfare kit up and running. You'd have thought that would have been part of the startup procedure. But maybe that's later on when you get up in the air. But I would have thought you'd have been able to get it up and running and put it in standby. Right, so the next exciting training lesson is going to be not taxi and takeoff. That's boring. That's seriously boring. I just throttles forward and then back again. And I can land now. I can land, Sandra. I can land an F18 and an F14 and an F5 very proficiently. I blame the headwind. I do too. Yes, let's blame the headwind. A bit of turbulence on takeoff. Right, so next one we'll do the oh dearie me, sneezing like hell. Well, the HSI overview and TACAN ADF navigation, which is probably going to be really boring, but really need to know that one for part of my training. And waypoint navigation and how to put the waypoints into the system. I definitely need to know that, and that is definitely part of the plan. And the training later on is heavy on air to ground. So basically need to go through everything from here all the way down, really. And what I'll try and do is I'll try and, because I'm on DCS every night now. I know I've not been streaming lately, but for weeks in fact. Yeah, air to ground is a lot more fun than most people think. Everybody wants to do that, you know, the Top Gun Maverick air to air shit. But I've seen quite a few YouTubers get really quite a mind change when they start doing air to ground stuff. Growling Sidewinder, for example, when he started doing the A10, because a lot of people kept saying him, do some air to ground in the A10, can you do some air to ground in the A10? And you know, Growling Sidewinder's always these dog fights. I think there's a joke in that statement there. The air to ground stuff has been a blast. Ha ha ha. Literally. But yeah, I mean, the air to ground stuff, you can get quite a lot of satisfaction. Just doing even just unguided bombs. you know, dropping your bombs unguided onto target. But I think I'm going to get a lot of satisfaction from likes of these two here, the JDAM and the JSOW employment, and you need to punch in the coordinates to the target. Now in the server for my training, which I have asked and I am allowed to stream while I'm on the training server. And practicing and stuff. I've asked and I'm allowed to stream, so I will be streaming from there and I'll be making videos from there. There is a lot of one of the guys on there called Duxon. He is well, to me and quite a few other, he's a mission maker, genius type thing for DCS World. I don't have a clue how to make a mission. But yeah, he's on the Nevada and Test Training Range. He's basically made it the Nevada and Test Training Range. There is lots of little ranges and areas where you can bomb stationary targets round, you know, bombing targets. There's strafing sites. There's military vehicle convoys and various other. But basically, there's a range there for any aircraft and any weapon to bomb, basically air to ground. There's no air to air on that map. It is only air to ground, but if you want to do air to ground, there's something for everybody there. Basically, he's made that really good. So on some of the air to ground weapons when I'm doing practice, I will show that. And I'm planning on making some videos of not so much me on training, but me practicing the training that I've been given. So if you want to see that, like doing circuits, basic takeoff, landing, and doing, I need to get permission from whoever I'm flying with, but if there's guys on the server all the time. Not a lot. It's actually, yeah, reasonably. It's about I'd say there's about, well, I think overall there's well over 100 guys on there, but there's usually, you know, a group of about 4 or 5, only 4 or 5 on the servers at the one time. So it's nice and quiet, but there's always somebody on there you can fly with if you want to practice anything. And a lot, the thing I really like about it is a lot of the guys that have done the full course, the full RAF training course that we're doing. And they've done it a few times. If you say to them, they'll actually turn around to you and say, "Hi, what are you doing tonight, Nemesis?" And I say, "Oh, I want to practice this." And they'll go, "All right, let's do that." And they'll just automatically just come over and help you practice whatever you want to practice. So as long as they're willing to become famous on Twitch as well, I can stream practicing with them. But I can't stream. I'm not just, and I wouldn't actually stream the lessons because then basically you're sort of like, you know, the guy's running a business, giving you training. You know, that's what he used to do, was train RAF pilots in the T1 and T2 Hawk. But yeah, I've asked him, and I'm allowed to stream practicing on the server. But I do need to wear the Fast Jet Performance skin on the planes, and the F5 and the F18 while I'm doing it, just to promote the server. But he doesn't actually want a lot, you know, he doesn't want hundreds of people joining. He wants it to be, yeah. He doesn't want the service that he gives to be totally overloaded. He doesn't want 2,000 DCS players jumping in and joining. And he's always said, you know, if there's too many people trying to join at one time, I'm going to stop it. He says, because I want it. He'll take up to maybe 20 people up on a training night. He basically runs training Monday through Thursday, and then Friday night's party night, where we all just go on and have a rammy. But yeah, Monday to Thursday, there's 2 days of that is the basic training, and then there's 2 days of that is the extremist training. You know, and he'll take about 20 of us up on one night, and each night, depending on what we're doing, and he'll maybe put us into pairs. We'll practice formation flying. We'll practice maybe landings. Say we're up to formation flying practice now. So we've not even. I mean, so far he's taught us stalling, spinning. What was week 3? What was week 3? I can't remember what week 3 was. Last week was formation flying, the basics of formation flying. So he's taught us that, and there's another 2 lessons to go before he actually starts teaching us how to land in a circuit. And it's a proper circuit, you know, and you've got to hit it by the numbers. If you don't do it by the numbers, you fail his training course basically. You know, so it is done properly. It is full RAF by the book training, and then once you've done the basics, which includes sort of the first half mostly is all F5 Tiger, and the second mode towards the end is F18, and you'll do some carrier landing stuff at near the end, and then you get the extremist course, which is basically the weapons and radar employment and stuff like that, and how to plot a proper intercept, and it's all based on real life RAF tactics. So really looking forward to that. That starts. The new extremist course starts in 5 weeks, but I wouldn't be finished the Disciplis course, which is the basic course, for about another 2 months. But if you're halfway decent and you do a lot of study, you can ask him, can I join the extremist course even though you've not finished the basic course? And depending on how you're doing on the basic course, he'll say, yeah, you can jump in on the extremist course, and learn the 2 at the same time. But it's down to his. Yeah, that's the F18. I've got it, you know, I've paid my money for it. I bought the F18 module. It's the most popular module. It is the most versatile aircraft in DCS world. But yeah, Zanra, as you say, it's not my most popular plane. I prefer the older stuff, as you have told you before. You know, I prefer flying, you know, the F86, and certainly the F14. Now that I've flown it a few times, really the way that F14 flies, it's just natural. It just flies through the sky, unlike the F18, just on rails. But yeah. So I'm going to take a quick 10-minute break and get a coffee and so on and so forth, and get back on about 9, just before 9, Zanra. So if you want to go for a coffee yourself, go grab a coffee, and we'll start on the boring HSI overview and DACAN ADF navigation training, if you're interested. But yeah, that general course is really good, and honestly I'm planning making videos of my training and doing streaming of me practicing the training. So that's my idea for my YouTube channel. Basically is to make videos of follow me while I learn DCS world from, you know, an RAF training instructor. And if people want to follow that, they can. If they don't want to, because it might be too boring for them. I personally think my voice is really boring. I've heard a couple of my videos back now, and I sound so boring, monotone. My voice, I hate my voice. But I think everybody says that. I've been told. Most people say they hate the sound of their own voice. Anyway, cup of coffee, and I'll be back in 10 minutes. Yeah, so a lot of people have said that, but everybody hates their own voices. But I've literally listened to my own voice back, and I went, God, I sound boring. But there you go. It is what it is. Got to work with what you got, right? So yeah, 10 minutes. I'll be back about 9. Probably before that by a couple of minutes, and we'll do the next bit. Feel free to go and watch something else while you're waiting. Just click up that. And I don't know, is there any point in me putting up a message going for a coffee? Because I think only the people that have been here that are actually watching the stream actually get that message. If you join the stream after I've said I'm going for a coffee, they can't actually see that message. So what's the point? I'll put it up anyway. Right. we're back. 2 minutes to go. Right, let's do less talking and more flying, shall we? Or more training. Right. Let's get into this. So yeah, I've had a look, and tomorrow's training is going to be pairs takeoff and pairs recovery. So basically takeoff and landings as a pair. So that's going to be fun, considering we haven't done the landing procedures yet. But he doesn't care about that at the moment. He's more interested in the formation flying, getting us to fly together before we do proper landing procedures, because flying formation is a big part of military flying. So let's look at this HSI.
A key part of any mission is the ability to navigate to and from the target. Two such tools the Hornet provides are automatic direction finding, or ADF, and tactical air navigation, or TACAN. ADF uses VOR stations located throughout the maps to get bearing-only information to them, and TACAN stations are co-located with many airfields, aircraft carriers, and some aerial refuelers. TACAN can provide both bearing and range, or just one of them depending on the source and TACAN mode used. In this lesson, we will discuss how to select ADF and TACAN navigation, and the steering information provided. I currently have the lesson paused as we first discuss a few items. Press spacebar to continue.
Press spacebar to continue. Spacebar.
For this lesson, we will be using an ADF example and then TACAN to navigate back to our home training base at Kobuleti. Let's start with the simpler ADF. To start, let's first select the Horizontal Situation Indicator, or HSI, for the left DDI. Press the menu Time push button on the left DDI to bring us to the tactical page. Note that this button will indicate menu when on the ground, but will show time when airborne. Let's press the same push button again to bring us to the support page. Now on the support page, press the HSI push button. The HSI is your primary navigation page that will display TACAN, waypoint, and ADF navigation data. In the center of the HSI is an aircraft symbol that represents your position from a top-down vantage. Your true airspeed is to the left of the symbol and ground speed to the right. Centered and around the aircraft symbol is a compass rose, and on the very top is a louver line that indicates your heading in regards to the compass rose. Along the top of the HSI is the SCL, or Scale, push button. Consecutive presses of this push button will cycle through the scale range options of the HSI. Press spacebar to continue. An ADF is assigned to a specific frequency, which can also be stored as a preset on one of the two radios. In this case, we have the VOR ADF near Kataisi Airfield preset as Channel 2 on Radio 1. Right now, Radio 1 is set to Channel 1, as you can see in the Channel Select window for Radio 1. To select a new channel preset, place your mouse over the Radio 1 select dial and rotate the mouse wheel forward until 2 is displayed. When you do, you will soon hear the characteristic ADF identification code for that VOR station. Press spacebar to continue. To display the bearing to the VOR station on the HSI, we need to set the UFC ADF function select switch to Radio 1. To do this, right mouse button click on the switch. With that done, you will now note a small circle along the outside of the compass rose at the 1 o'clock position. This is your bearing to the ADF signal. There is no range information though. As you can see, ADF is quite simple. Let's move on to TACAN. Press spacebar when ready. In order to display all TACAN information on the HSI and HUD, press the TCN or TACAN push button on the HSI. Upon doing so, it will be boxed. Now we need to turn on the TACAN and set the code of the desired station. Press the TACAN button on the UFC.
Excuse me.
With the TACAN now selected on the UFC, we have three choices in the option select windows. TR is transmit receive and will provide both bearing and range guidance. RCV is for receive and will just provide bearing to the station. And AA is for air-to-air and will provide either bearing and range or just range depending on the aircraft. By default, we have TR selected, which is fine. The lower two option select windows allow you to select either an X or Y TACAN channel. For example, 67X. Now let's turn on the TACAN by pressing the on-off button on the UFC. On the scratch pad, we now see that the TACAN is on and a default value of 1. Select Clear on the UFC keypad to remove this. We will navigate to the TACAN station at Kobuleti Airfield, which has the TACAN code of 67X. Enter 67 on the UFC keypad and then press the Enter button on the UFC. After entering 67X and pressing Enter, press spacebar.
67. Enter. That's better. 6, 7. Enter. Now that it's on.
With the TACAN station now selected, we have some new information on the HUD and HSI. On the right side of the HUD, we have the range to the station in nautical miles and the 3-digit code for the station to the right of the distance value. At the top of the HUD, along the heading tape, we have a steering bar that indicates the heading to the TACAN station. On the HSI, we have much more information. In the top left corner of the HSI, we have a data block with 3 rows. The top row is bearing, distance. The second row is time to go in minutes and seconds, and the bottom row is the station ID. On the outside of the compass rose is an inverted triangle with a T in the center. This indicates your heading to the station. There is a corresponding tail on the other side of the compass rose. Between the aircraft symbol and the T symbol is a 3-pronged symbol that represents the selected TACAN station. Press spacebar to continue. When a TACAN station has been selected, you can use the course set switch, labeled CRS, on the top right corner of the MPCD to set a course line that is centered on the selected station. Left click rotates the course line counterclockwise, and a right mouse click moves it clockwise. When a course has been set, the course line will be displayed on the HSI and on the HUD, with dots to represent 4 and 8 degrees of course offset. Press spacebar to continue. When a TACAN beacon is selected, you will also hear the coded ID. You can adjust the volume of this with the TACAN volume control knob labeled TCN on the volume panel. Press spacebar to continue. You can view airfield TACAN beacon channels by going to the F10 map, clicking on an airfield, and then reading the data of the airfield. This concludes our look at the HSI, ADF, and TACAN. When you are ready, press spacebar to unpause this lesson and practice navigating using the ADF and TACAN.
how looking down on the ground it's not as good as Microsoft Flight Simulator. Yeah, it's been out for 20 years, but I think there's enough detail in these maps that you get. It just gives you the more than enough feeling of real flying. That's required.
Altitude. Altitude.
Right, let's do some navigation then. Kutaisi and Sanoki. Kutaisi's our main, well, Sanoki Koki's our main base on the training ground. 31 X-ray. Takan on the left, and that should match up with the
Altitude. Altitude.
We are just, yeah, not got the Takan selected. Takan. We should get, yeah, there's a little tape. And there's the airfield right there. F10 again, F12, get out the menu, F10, and that's 327's the frequency, that's 261, 261.
Colt 1-1, inbound.
Colt 1-1. Copy. Fly heading 079. 113. QFE 29.88. Runway 27. Depend altitude.
You'd think I'd done this before.
Colt 1-1. Cleared for visual. Contact tower.
There's the runway. So we'll do a pattern entry, brake for landing. So we're taught in the school. We haven't been taught this yet, but I've read ahead.
Altitude. Altitude.
Radar altitude, 1,500 feet we're looking for. Low, brake speed back. Way too fast. Can fix that on the run-in. Up to 1,500. Go, close enough. Doesn't have to be exact. I just love how I can lean over and track IR. Look out. Runway is clear.
Colt key. Colt 1-1, request landing.
On the brake. Power. Speed up. That was it. Keep a little close. Bring it out. Bring the gear down. It's a bit better. Low. It's about 45 degrees. Banana, 2 banana. I just wanted to let my height drop down too much, but we hold it to halfway round. And now bring it down. Thrust. Nice line up. Power back. Bit hard, but not so bad. Speed brake out. And let's start applying those brakes. shit. Now one good thing about the Hornet.
Taxi to parking area.
I always fuck something up. That'll buff out. But yeah, Takan navigation is quite easy, as is ADF. So we'll move on to waypoints. I have used Takan and stuff before. Takan is really quite easy to get a hold of. You use it in the F5 as well, but you've got to use the ADF for the F86.
While TACAN navigation is a great tool to get back to your airfield or carrier, many times you will need the ability to set arbitrary navigation points. This is where waypoint navigation comes in. The Hornet allows you to have 3 sequences of waypoints that you could use to mark anything from a turn point, a target, or to a threat location. Waypoints can be created in both the mission editor and while in the Hornet cockpit. For this lesson though, we will focus on a waypoint sequence already created. I currently have the lesson paused. Press spacebar to continue. Let's first set the left DDI to the HSI page. Press the time push button. We are now on the tactical page, so a press of the time push button again will bring us to the support page. Now on the support page, select the HSI push button. This will display the horizontal situation indicator. Much of this will look familiar from the TACAN lesson. Instead of pressing the TCN push button though, press the waypoint push button this time. This will box waypoint and allow display of more waypoint navigation information on the HSI and HUD. We are currently at waypoint 0, as indicated on the right side of the HUD and between the up and down arrows along the right side of the left DDI. Press the up arrow to select the next waypoint, waypoint 1.
Waypoint 0. I getcha.
With waypoint 1 selected, note the distance to the waypoint, and the waypoint number is displayed on the right side of the HUD, and a steering bar to the waypoint is along the heading tape. On the HSI, you can now better see the waypoint marker that appears as a small circle with a dot in the center. By pressing the SEC1 push button, it will box it and display dashed connecting lines between the waypoints in the selected sequence. In the top right portion of the HSI, data of the selected waypoints is shown. The top row is the bearing and distance to the waypoint, and below is the hours, minutes, seconds to the waypoint. Inscribed inside the compass rows is a triangle that indicates the heading to the selected waypoint, with a corresponding tail opposite of it. Press spacebar to continue. As with TACAN, you can also set a course line through the selected waypoint. This can be useful by placing a waypoint on a runway and using the course line for a direct approach, or as a reference for the downwind leg of an overhead landing pattern. Press spacebar to continue.
I'm pressing spacebar.
By selecting the auto waypoint sequence option, the navigation system will automatically select the next waypoint in sequence as each waypoint is reached. This avoids having to manually select the next waypoint while navigating a sequence. When you are ready, I will unpause the lesson and allow you to navigate the waypoint sequence. Ahead of you is the sequence of waypoints along a low-altitude flight plan. Try to fly through each gate in sequence. Press spacebar to unpause the lesson. To more easily fly this sequence, you may wish to adjust the HSI scale. You can use this in conjunction with the next waypoint distance and steering cue on the HUD to best align yourself to intercept the next gate. At any point you can end this lesson by pressing the escape key.
That marker's moving away. Not anymore. Throttles 87%. Let's punch it up a bit. Trim down. I hate the trim in the F18. Yeah. The big green box there is a bit of a spoiler really if you're trying to follow the waypoint, because you're not going to be looking at the HSI or the tape, you're going to be looking at the big green box. Well, I think we've got the idea of following pre-made markers. Beautiful scenery around here. That looks like a nice valley to have some fun in. Probably crash, but let's have a little bit of fun. Before we move on to the next mission. Yeah, I was hoping that this mission would actually teach you waypoint entry, as in how to input the waypoints. Because I know how to follow them, set up the auto, so on and so forth. Nearly at Mark 1. 0.98. I don't know. I mean, some of the training and so on is very basic. I found. Literally, I mean, like the startup. I mean, they didn't go over how they switch on the electronic warfare stuff, the RWR, and so on and so forth. This is where I crash into a mountain while I'm on the map. Do me. Is 16 X-ray. Let's land him at 2B for fun, practice. As we nearly planned him out. I know why it's not coming up with the TACAN. The TACAN is line of sight and we are in the mountains. See, I'm learning stuff, There we go. Oh, just look at all this fluffiness. Something tells me I shouldn't go below the mountains at the moment, or below the clouds. I might hit something, he says. And there's the coast. What's the bum. Runway 13.
Altitude. Altitude. Quite the fire they've got going over there. Okay, buddy. Let's get this down. Bit off the line. Another hard landing. Yeah, no problem, Zenra.
It was definitely a solid landing when you can hear the gear collapse like that when you hit. And it's intact with no blown out tires, so that's all good. So yeah, so far so good. What is the next one? So it's landing, VFR, overhead pattern landing. Yeah, well I'll be another half hour and then I'll be hitting the hay myself due to the fact I've got to get up at 2:30 in the morning and go to work. Which is really annoying, having to go to work. Yeah, it's a fun job I have. Up between, well, the alarms go off at 2:30, 2:45, and then I'll usually get up about 3, leave the house at 3:30, go catch the company bus, start the job at 4:45, and then I don't get home until 4:15. So let's say I'm up at 3, just to round the numbers up. I don't get home till 4:15. So that's a 13-hour day. And then I'll come home tomorrow, and I've got a lesson tomorrow, which is between 6 o'clock and 8 o'clock. And then I'll probably come on here. That's probably what I'll do now, is I'll try and come on here and stream as much as I can now, because I'm definitely into DCS big time now. Unlike last year, when I was a bit on and offy, because I wasn't learning much, I was just crashing a lot. But yeah, I started the training a month ago, so I've been on virtually every night, so I've started the streaming back up. So I'll do my lesson tomorrow, and then I should come on for do some more of this. Basically, we'll do some more F18 training videos, and we'll just work our way down. Until I get thingy enough, and then hopefully yeah. Yeah, I only get 4 hours sleep a day, usually, Zanra. But there you go. But yeah, we'll probably do the VFR and the VFR overhead pattern landing tonight, and then we'll call it quits, because that shouldn't take long. Shouldn't take long to crash a plane, you know me. If there's one thing I'm good at, it's crashing planes. Oh, I'm used to it, mate. I am literally, for the past X amount of years, I don't know how long, I have literally ran on 4 or 5 hours sleep a day. And there was a time there a couple of years back, I was running on 4 days without sleep. So I'm sort of used to it. But I've got a busy life, I've got plans for my future. And running, streaming and making YouTube videos is very much a part of that. And I need to get my arse in gear with it, not being funny. Because I'm hoping it's going to create a little, I'm not expecting me to be super huge, I'm not expecting me anywhere near as big as Growling, Sidewinder and the Grim Reapers and all them, but I'm, an extra 100 or so a month is required, and I can't get it from my work at the moment because they're not giving it overtime. They stopped the overtime. This time last year I was earning £1,000 more a month because of the amount of overtime I was doing, and they took it all away, the buggers. But yeah, so I've got plans, and earning online income is part of it, and so yeah, really not be wanting to go into too much personal stuff, but really feeling the pinch. I am literally running on spare pounds singular per week at the moment. Okay, VFR, straight airfield, straight in landing.
In previous lessons, we learned how to take off and navigate, but what goes up must come down. In this lesson, we'll go over the basics of landing a Hornet at an airfield in visual flight rules conditions using a straight-in approach. This will also be useful for the later instrument flight rules landing lesson. I currently have the lesson paused as I want to first outline the basics of an airfield VFR straight-in approach. Before flying this lesson, please make sure you are familiar with the HUD symbology as described in the manual and first lesson. Press spacebar to continue.
Pressing spacebar. Are you going to accept the fact I pressed the spacebar, or are you just going to think about it?
You will start the approach 11 miles out at 3,000 feet barometric and 260 knots on approach to runway 07 at Coboletti. Once at 5 miles, you will be at 1,500 feet, and this will place you on a 3-degree glide path to the runway.
Yep.
To measure your glide path angle, reference your velocity vector on the HUD in relation to the pitch ladder. A 3-degree flight path is standard for a Hornet landing. For a straight-in approach, we will keep the HUD showing barometric altitude. This will also be true for IFR landings. Press spacebar to continue. After the lesson is unpaused, reduce your throttle to idle and fly through the gates ahead. Once your airspeed is below 250 knots, lower the landing gear by moving the landing gear control handle down. Do this by left-clicking the handle or by pressing the G key.
I've got a button mapped.
Also lower the flaps to fold down by moving the flap switch in the down fold position, either by left-clicking on the switch twice or pressing left control F. Once the gear and flaps are down, keep flying through the gates and get the aircraft to an on-speed angle of attack. This is the proper AOA that will achieve the correct hook angle to catch the target wire of the carrier. You will want an angle of attack of 8.1 degrees, which will place the velocity vector on the HUD in the center of the E bracket. Additionally, your angle of attack target of 8.1 degrees is indicated by the AOA indexer lights to the left of the HUD frame. When at the on-speed AOA, the center yellow circle will be illuminated. Use the throttle to adjust your glide path and pitch trim to adjust AOA when the flaps are down. Use the first part of the flight to practice stabilized on-speed flight. Press spacebar to continue.
Spacebar pressed. Okay, I'll press it again.
When you're ready, press spacebar and I will unpause the lesson.
Well, better ready than ever. Let's go.
Being below 250 knots, go ahead and lower your landing gear and drop the flaps to full. Reduce your airspeed by setting the throttles to idle. You may also wish to extend your speed brake by using the speed brake switch on the right throttle grip or by pressing left shift B to get slower more quickly. Note the SPD BRK light on the instrument panel when the speed brake is extended. As you slow below 140 knots, retract the speed brake by using the speed brake switch or pressing left control B. Adjust the throttle and stick trim to maintain 8.1 degrees of angle of attack. Velocity vector inside the E bracket. Use the gates as a reference for your glide path by keeping the velocity vector in the center of the next gate.
Up, up, up. Oh, she is wallowing. She is wallowing. That's what you call just making it. And we're all over the place. Right, let's recover, let's recover. Bring that speed back. Bit more. I blame the autopilot, even though it's not on. Right, nearly there. Come on. Let's get over this hump.
At this point, you should be on speed with an angle of attack of 8.1 degrees, indicated by the velocity vector in the center of the E bracket on the HUD. Use throttle input to adjust your glide path such that the E bracket is positioned over the runway threshold. Use pitch trim to keep on-speed AOA. You should now be on a 3-degree glide path down the runway.
Getting there. Hit the F18.
Maintain
It's like
on-speed
flying on
AOA,
rails.
and your glide path should be aligned with the runway threshold.
We ain't making that. We are slow. Better. Bring that nose down.
Maintain
bit more
on-speed
speed.
AOA and fly the aircraft onto the runway with a vertical velocity of no more than 750 feet per minute, as displayed over the HUD altitude indication. Do not flare. Once the nose wheel comes down, use the rudder to keep the aircraft centered down the runway, and use the wheel brakes to bring her to a halt.
Oh, this is not pretty at all. Fucking thump. That was about a 20-degree angle of attack on that landing. Well, practice makes perfect. I can do it nicely in the F5 Tiger, but I just hate the F18. It doesn't fly naturally. It's computer controlled. It's just horrible. Could it be worse? We know we've done a lot worse, don't we, Zanra? We've done a lot worse. Remember the Spitfire days? Oh my god. Right, let's do the next mission, and then, because this is basically just practice. Do it again and again. Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. I mean, when I was trying to overhead pattern landing here, it should be easy enough. I'm doing that in the F5, but not with a computer controlled plane. Yeah, the F18, when I was practicing trying to hook up refueling, which is I can now do, it was a nightmare trying to make minute adjustments, left and right and up and down. If you just wanted to make that tiny adjustment, and it would do it, but then it would keep doing it, it wouldn't resettle again. Whereas the F14, you could, you know, just use the trim, set it up a bit, down a bit, left a bit, and it just gets there. Whereas the F18, it seems to, you set it and then it just does what it wants to do. It just wants to keep going. Anyway, let's do an overhead pattern landing or crash, whichever one we hope it will be. And then we'll call it a night. Get our last coffee and go to bed for 4 hours. But yeah, I'll definitely be on, should definitely be on tomorrow night, straight after the lesson. And we'll continue doing a bit more. I won't be on for 4 hours.
In the previous lesson, we learned how to perform a simple straight-in landing during VFR conditions.
Yes, we did.
In this lesson, we're going to learn how to perform an overhead landing pattern. This should be your usual VFR landing pattern, and it will be very similar to a Case 1 landing pattern you'll use to land on the boat. I currently have the lesson paused, as I want to first outline the airfield overhead pattern. Before flying the lesson, please make sure you are familiar with the HUD symbology as described in the manual. Press spacebar to continue.
Spacebar.
Ahead of you is a series of gates that you will fly through. These are designed to instruct you on where you should be during the pattern. You will start the pattern at 800 feet and 350 knots, just to the left of the runway. At the end of the runway, brake to the left with a G of 1% of your airspeed, in this case, 3.5 G for 350 knots. As your speed decreases, relax the G to match the speed. At 180 degrees of turn, level out on the downwind leg and descend to 600 feet, and you should be below 250 knots. When below 250 knots, lower your landing gear and lower the flaps to fold down. Press spacebar to continue. Once on the downwind leg, establish yourself at 600 feet and slow the aircraft to on-speed angle of attack of 8.1 degrees. This can most easily be seen on the HUD by keeping the velocity indicator inside the E bracket. To the left of the HUD frame are the angle of attack indexer lights. When on speed, the center donut should be lit. Maintain on-speed angle of attack during the downwind leg. Press spacebar to continue. As you roll out on the runway heading, fly to place the E bracket on the runway threshold and use throttle adjustments to control your glide path to be 3 degrees. Use pitch trim to keep the velocity vector centered in the E bracket. Press spacebar to continue.
You don't like my spacebar, do you? How many times have I pressed
Prior to
spacebar?
touchdown, do not flare the aircraft, but rather let it fly into the runway with no more than 750 feet per minute, as indicated above your altitude on the HUD. That is an overview of what we will be doing. Before we try this out though, let's first set up a couple of things in the cockpit. First, set the altimeter display on the HUD to display radar altitude by moving the altitude switch on the HUD control panel to the down RDR position. Using what you learned in the TACAN lesson, set the TACAN to 67X and a course of 70 degrees. This is the TACAN channel for Kobuleti Airfield, and it will provide us useful information to line up our downwind and final approach legs of the pattern. Press spacebar when done, and you are ready to unpause the lesson.
degrees. Right. Changing the course. Don't really need it, but we should change. Tack on. Probably why. There we go. Land this thing.
We are now flying a heading of 64 degrees at 370 knots and 1,000 feet. Fly through the gates ahead, which will place us at 800 feet and offset to the right of the runway. We don't want to directly overfly the runway. Maintain an airspeed of 350 knots. Cage the velocity vector on the HUD by pressing the Cage Uncage button to the right of the throttle grip or pressing C. Approaching the end of the runway, we will continue to follow the gates for a 180-degree turn into the downwind leg. The turn rate will be based on a G that is 1% of our airspeed. In this case, 3.5 G for 350 knots.
So unsmooth. Now we're 250 knots. It's not recognizing I'm through the gates. Gear down, flaps down. We'll do this ourselves, shall we? Wave off, wave off. This was a carrier landing, it would have been waved off. Now let's just do this, get it down. Come on. Oh, this is not going to be pretty. Let's just wave off and go around again, shall we? Because that was disastrous. I hate this plane. No, excuses, but I always feel like I'm fighting the controls in this thing. And I'm not, never, the best way to describe it is I'm never flying an F18, I'm fighting an F18. This is a bit sexier. Bit high. Very high. But I'm not gonna hang it out. There we go. Gonna get it down, we'll get it down one way or another. Nice. Handbrake turn at the end. Style. I wish we could call it that. Yeah, I'm always fighting the F18, I'm not flying it. That's just how I look at it. It's just, I'm telling it, and you can tell the computer's thinking and going, okay, he's asking me to do this. Let's just park up properly, shall we? Yeah, it's the same switch that they used in Top Gun Maverick to over-G the aircraft. It's the one at the front of the throttle. That one. And there is also another one, where are we? That one, which is a spin recovery switch, which, from watching a video last week, if you hit that, it will disable all the limitations, same as that one does, but that one's just a temporary one. You can hold and release that. You switch that on, it basically stays on all the time, and it lets you get out of a spin. If the aircraft can't do it itself, then it lets you try and take control of doing that, so you can do what the aircraft doesn't want you to do, basically, or doesn't let you do, to get out of trouble. Yeah, there's. I watched a video last week on YouTube. Can't remember which guy it was. There we go, hit the right button, Barry. Oh, I need to settle into to do the proper missions training. I'll get used to it. See, the strange thing is, despite all my bitching, the F-18 is the one that I can actually do the best refueling, air-to-air refueling on, compared to the F-14, even though I say the F-14 flies more naturally and smoother. The F-18 is the one I can actually hook up easier, almost to the point where I can almost get it. I usually get one disconnect on the F-18 during the process of filling up. And the F-14 is about 5. And to be honest, the last time I tried to hook up on the F-14, I didn't make it in time and ran out of fuel. Practice, practice. But yeah, we'll call it a night. That's 10:15. Pretty much bedtime as normal. So I'll come on for about an hour tomorrow. That will be sometime between 8 o'clock and 10 o'clock. And I'll do at least one mission a night, because there is other stuff I want to practice, like the stuff I'm learning at school, the flying school that I'm with. I need to practice that shit, because he does grade you on it and stuff. So I'll probably take his up for that as well. If I do one mission in the F-18, I'll go out in the F5 on his server, and we'll either do Nevada Test and Training Range or the Caucasus. We'll do some takeoffs and landings and practice for that. Navigation on the F5 as well, which I like the F5 a lot better than the F-18 as well. There's a lot of guys in my squad, because I bitch about the F18 all the time. A lot of guys in my squad, heresy, the F18 is so much better. Yeah, you just like it because it's so much easier to fly, because it's all computer controlled. It's if you want to learn, as our instructor says, as Tim Rice says, if you can do it in the F5, you can do it in anything. And that's one of the reasons he's using it. Yes, it is a training aircraft. It is actually used. It's was it the T-38? T-38 is the original version, and then they made the fighter version of it, the F5. So it is, I mean, a training and so on aircraft is designed as that. And he said that, because everything's manual and you need to do instrument flying in it, it's not heads-up display. The only things in the heads-up display in the F5 is the gun sight, and that's it. Everything else is instruments. So if you can do it in the F5, he says you can do it in anything. And that's going back to my philosophy, Zanra, that if you learn the Spitfire and you learn the F-86, and you can fly the Spitfire and you can fly the F-86 and DCS, you can fly anything, because it's all about energy management. But I have changed my mind about going to the Spitfire first, especially if you're doing it yourself. I think what I've done here is, because you and I both know I want to do this proper, by going to the actual real proper flight school. And I could go on to the other guys like Spudknocker and so on, but and get guys in their squads to show me this and that. But I thought, I'm going to do this, I'll do it properly. So I mean, I pay this guy to join his group, and I'm very happy with what I'm paying. And I'm getting taught real life RAF tactics. So right, I'm going to bed because I'm tired. There's only so much flying you can do, because I've been on for quite a few hours before I started streaming as well. I'll see you tomorrow if you're on. I say I should be on between 8 o'clock and 10 o'clock. I'll be finishing at 10, roughly about the same time tomorrow night. Get 4 days of work out the way, and then I'm off for 5 days. Yay! So yeah, I should be streaming every night this week, even for at least an hour, probably 2, till 10 o'clock, between 8 o'clock and 10 o'clock. Wednesday, Thursday. Wednesday I'll be streaming, but it'll be an hour later. Thursday I won't know. I won't be doing it on Thursday because I got to go and see my dear old mum on Thursdays. So yeah, lessons tomorrow, and then I'll stream, and then on Tuesday I'll stream probably earlier, 6 o'clock through to 10, 7 o'clock through to 10, and that'll just be me practicing stuff. Enjoy your Harrier tonight if you're still on for a while flying your Harrier. It's one of the ones I want to get, but you can only really get good in this game with about 3 modules, to be honest. I think you can only get really good. You can fly as many modules as you can, and I've got a lot of them, most of them, but you're only going to get good. I mean, to learn all the systems in the F18, and then to learn all the systems in an F16, and then learn all the systems in a Harrier and keep current with it all, that's a lot. Even though there's a lot of similarities between them all, there's a lot of little differences. But yeah. Well, to those who may or may not be watching, thank you for watching. If you're on Twitch, do give me a follow. It would be nice. I think I've got 25 followers. Huge amount. And on YouTube, if you're on YouTube, please like, subscribe, and all the other malarkey that comes along with that. I've got 12 subscribers on YouTube. That's really growing fast on that one. Why they want to watch me, I don't know, but yeah. So I mean, that's the general plan of this channel from now on. Is I'm going to be going through this training. If people want to follow me getting into DCS and getting trained up,
and learning how to fly properly. That's going to be the idea. My third for the Eurofighter. You see, the thing is, everybody's raving about the F-15E at the moment. I'm more excited about the F-4 Phantom than the F-15. The F-15 was my favourite fighter when I was a kid, and then it became the F-14 after Top Gun, obviously. And the F-14 is just beautiful. Swing wings, what's not to like? And lands on a carrier, what's not to like? And it was in Top Gun, what's not to like? But yeah, so the F-14 became my favourite, but I still like the F-15 because it's just a fantastic fighter. But how I look at things now, I'm looking forward to the F-4 Phantom because it's a bit more, again, old school. Vietnam, I know the F-15's a 1970s fighter and it doesn't have computer control flight dynamics. I'm not sure if the F-18E F-15E does though. I know the F-15C is normal flight dynamics. F-14 class is not computer controlled flight dynamics. I'm not too sure in the E. But yeah, when the Eurofighter comes out, that's going to be something. That'll be the best dogfighter in the game, I think, the Eurofighter. It technically is at the moment, but the mod for it is not realistic. It's seriously well overpowered, the mod for the Typhoon. But when we get a genuine module for it, yeah, that's going to be interesting. Going to be very interesting. And I'll probably get the Typhoon simply because the RAF fly it at the moment as well. Right, I'm going to stop gabbing, I'm going to go to bed, and I shall see you, everybody, tomorrow. I think 6 o'clock I finished, 6 o'clock I start my mission, finish lesson, finish at 8. So yeah, I'll probably take a break and it'll be about 8:30, 9ish. Is realistically when I'll get on streaming, because I'll need a half-hour break after the lesson. Right, I shall see everybody later. Enjoy your Harrier tonight, and if you get on tomorrow. But yeah, the Harrier looks sexy. Right, catch you later, buddy.